Many people encounter someone in their life who seems always bitter and constantly complaining, at work, at home, in their social circle. Understanding why this behavior persists helps us respond more constructively, both for our own well-being and for the health of the relationships involved. Below is an exploration of the underlying causes, followed by practical tips for dealing with such individuals in both professional and personal spheres. Why some people stay bitter and complain all the time. There are several psychological and social reasons why someone might habitually adopt a bitter, complaining posture. 1. Negativity bias. Human brains are wired to pay more attention to threats, problems, and negatives than to positives. As one therapist writes, the brain focuses on the negatives as they appear more threatening to survival. Over time, this bias can make frequent complaining easier than noticing things that are working well. 1. Habit and rewiring. Complaining can become a habit. One article explains that the more frequently someone complains, the more the neural pathways adapt so that complaining becomes the default. In effect, their brain sets up complaint mode as a normal state. 1. External locus of control, victim mindset. Some people repeatedly focus on how things happen to them rather than how they respond. As one writer puts it, complaining often signals, we want this situation to be better, but we don't want to fix it ourselves. This can lead to a chronic sense of helplessness, which in turn fosters bitterness. 1. Attention, validation, or early life conditioning. For some, habitual complaining may have roots in early life experiences where complaining got attention or where the person learned that negativity was a valid way to communicate distress. Over time, the pattern becomes entrenched. 1. Avoiding emotional discomfort. Complaining gives a way to express frustration, vent stress, feel heard, rather than confronting deeper emotional issues or taking constructive action. As a result of these factors, someone can get trapped in a cycle. They notice problems, they complain, complaining reinforces the negative wiring, and then their mood, relationships, and outlook decline. They become the complainer, rather than someone who solves or adapts. What this looks like at work and in relationships. At work, a person who always complains might do things like dwell on how unfair assignments are, focus on what's broken rather than proposing solutions, repeatedly vent to colleagues and undermine team morale. In relationships, friendships, romantic, family, the pattern might show as constant criticism, nothing ever goes right, irritable reactions, failure to appreciate positives, and draining others with repeated negative talk. Because complaining becomes a kind of relationship currency, one share, one vent, rather than productive dialogue, people around the complainer may feel drained, avoidant, or resentful. Studies show that frequent complaining can reduce listeners' well-being and even affect their thinking. In effect, the complainer can harm the relationship by the sheer weight of negativity. Tips for how you can deal with someone who's always bitter. Dealing with someone who is persistently complaining doesn't mean giving up on them, but it does mean protecting your own boundaries and engaging wisely. Here are useful strategies. 1. Recognize and limit the impact. Acknowledge that you can't always change the other person's mindset. If their bitterness is affecting your mood or productivity, it's okay to limit how long you'll engage in those conversations. Experts recommend shortening the conversation or redirecting it. 1. Set boundaries. In a workplace, these might look like, I'm happy to talk about how we can solve this, but I'm trying not to dwell on the same complaint again. In personal relationships, you might say, I understand you're upset, but let's take 5 minutes and then move on to something else. Boundaries help prevent the complaint loop from dominating. 1. Shift the focus toward solutions. Instead of joining the vent, you can gently steer the dialogue. What could make that better? Or what do you want to do about it? This invites forward motion rather than just reiterated bitterness. 1. Use empathy first, but not at the cost of your well-being. Many habitual complainers feel unheard, powerless, or frustrated. Acknowledging that sounds really annoying, frustrating, can help them feel heard. But then you still need to refrain from getting dragged into endless negativity. 1. Model a different way. At work or home, you can model more solution-oriented, balanced responses. If you receive a complaint, acknowledge the issue and then move to action. I hear you. Let's do X or Y. Over time, this can subtly shift the tone of interactions. 1. Protect your own mental space. If you find that listening to endless complaints is draining you, take intentional breaks, practice gratitude, or limit how much time you allow. The complaint loop can affect you neurologically as well. 1. Consider bigger help if needed. Sometimes chronic complaining is a manifestation of deeper issues: anxiety, depression, learned helplessness. While you're not the therapist, you can encourage the person, if appropriate, to seek professional help. Recognizing this possibility helps remove blame and instead focus on the behavior and its effects. Special considerations for the workplace. In a professional environment, complaints often include workload, management, processes, or culture. Handling someone who is always bitter at work might also need additional structure. Keep the conversation anchored in facts and processes, not just feelings. Encourage the person to document the specific issues and possible solutions. Use formal channels. If an employee's negativity affects team morale, it may require performance coaching or feedback sessions. Encourage a culture of feedback plus improvement. When complaints arise, shift them into, "How can we fix this?" and ensure that management visibly acts on constructive feedback. Otherwise, the complainer may feel permanently ignored and thus persist in negativity. Recognize when negativity is a pattern and track its impact. Team productivity, morale. If necessary, escalate through HR or team leads with data rather than just anecdotes. Special considerations for personal relationships. In romantic, family, or close friendships, the stakes of negativity are often higher due to emotional investment. Communicate openly about how their tone affects you. "I feel drained when we spend our time complaining, and it's important for me to have more positive space too." Share good news, positive experiences, encourage balance in the relationship. If every interaction is negative, the relationship loses its restorative function. Decide what your emotional limits are. You may continue to support the person, but you aren't obligated to absorb all their complaints indefinitely. It's healthy to step back or take breaks if needed. Encourage alternative activities. Watch something uplifting, collaborate on a positive goal, shift the dynamic away from endless venting to something that builds rather than only releases. Why shifting the pattern benefits everyone. When the complainer changes even a little, shifting from constant grievance to occasional solution-oriented feedback, it benefits them, reduces neurological negativity, improves mood and relationships, and benefits those around them. Less draining, more constructive interactions. As one article points out, too much complaining can worsen your mood, make you feel helpless, and lead to a negative outlook on life. For the people around them, it means less emotional weight and more balanced connection. Final thoughts. Habitual bitterness and complaining is rarely about the weather, the traffic, or the coworker on its face. It often arises from deeper wiring, a negativity bias, learned habit, feelings of helplessness, or seeking validation. The behavior becomes its own ecosystem. Your role isn't to fix the person, but you can influence how you respond to them, set boundaries, shift the tone of interactions, and protect your own well-being. Whether at work or in relationships, combining empathy with structure, boundaries, and solution orientation gives the best chance of changing the dynamic. If you live in Massachusetts and need help communicating with toxic individuals, call TCA Counseling Group for in-person or virtual therapy.